Hello there, this is Miriam, Holistic Life Coach and Mind Body Practitioner at PainOutsidetheBox. And in this video, I'm going to be discussing the most empowering decision that you can take to heal chronic pain and symptoms. And that is the decision not to buy into the fear. The decision to shift from fear to better feeling emotions. Now, when I mention the word fear, there are two areas of our lives where typically fear manifests if we suffer from chronic pain or symptoms. So there is the fear about the symptoms themselves, the fact that the symptoms can worsen, fear around how you're going to handle the symptoms and so on. But there's usually also more fear in your everyday life, fear about things going wrong, fear of conflict, fear of failure, and all that other stuff. So fear itself as an emotion, whether it's fear of the body breaking down in some way or getting sick, or fear in these other personal aspects of your life, it contributes to how you're feeling day by day, obviously, and it contributes also to how you're feeling in the body, because the body is a reflection of your dominant emotional state. And if your dominant emotional state, by which I mean the dominant state which you find yourself in day after day, if this state is based on fear, then obviously the body will tend to reflect that state physically. So I was inspired to record this video based on an incident that I had personally, because I was reminded of it lately by a client as well. And I keep coming across these kind of incidents from clients where they are terribly scared by certain warnings, certain fearful, scary warnings. So the first thing I wanted to alert you about is these warnings that you might be getting about your body, either from caring specialists or from family members. It doesn't matter. In my particular situation, it had been a medical specialist who had really scared me about my body, who had warned me that if I were to use it in certain ways, if I were to continue with my rock climbing, I would be terribly damaged. And typically, these warnings come from caring individuals, even caring specialists who want to avoid the worst. And obviously, most of them are not founded in science. For example, in my case, there were no real tests to show that my body was really damaged. In fact, what I had was neuroplastic pain, TMS. But the thing is, it could be about anything really. It could be scary messages about a condition, a real condition that you have, worsening over time. It could be someone telling you, listen, unless you avoid X or Y, this is gonna worsen over time. I know this person and this person who went through this. Unless you're going to take the specific treatment protocol, this is going to get worse. And even though some of these warnings are well meant, the feeling that they invoke is typically one of fear, at least in most individuals. If you're anything like me, you would be hit hard by the fear and by the helplessness. And I only started to be aware of the intensity of this fear once I started doing this TMS work, once I started realizing how much I had bought into fearful messages. And it could be also fearful messages that you hear over social media or over the internet by people who have similar conditions to yours. We must remember that us human beings are suggestible. So if there's someone who has a similar condition to yours and he's going to tell you that he's experienced also this and that, it actually makes it more likely for you to experience those same symptoms. This is how clever our brain is. In my case, for example, when this specialist that I mentioned previously had warned me that I would really hurt if I continued with physical activity, my pain intensified tenfold the following weekend as I started to do some activity. And that's because I had been noceboed. The nocebo effect It's the opposite of the placebo effect. It results from us thinking that there could be a scary or undesirable consequence, and that consequence actually does happen in the body because it's been predicted, because we are kind of expecting it. And the nocebo effect can be extremely powerful, especially if the original warning is coming from a medical professional or a specialist in some alternative health field. If they tell you, listen, unless you do exactly this treatment protocol, let's say it's a physical therapist, just to give an example, because not all physical therapists are like that. But let's say it's a physical therapist telling you that unless you go for physical therapy every week, unless you do every single exercise that he recommends every day, you're going to be in pain or your condition is going to get worse. That is a message based on fear, not empowerment. It is usually given to get individuals to take action because in certain circumstances, people need a little bit of fear in order to take action with certain health conditions. But the thing I've noticed over the years is that people with chronic pain or symptoms that can be classified as TMS or mind-body syndrome, they have already been taking action. They have already been trying to heal. And they are increasingly and even more prone to these fear-based messages. So these fear-based messages don't usually serve them. They actually put them into a deeper emotional state of fear. And this is what we want to avoid, guys. The body can't function very well if you are living in fear. That is the ultimate truth. So no matter what you're going through, no matter how scary the circumstance is or how scary your pain is, the decision always has to be, once you recognize that fear, to step out of it as soon as possible. So this can look like actually changing your therapist, changing the physical therapist or the medical practitioner who is seeing you for your condition if it makes you feel increasingly fearful after each session or after each appointment. Because what you're looking for is a feeling of empowerment, no matter what treatment you're taking. If you cannot feel that feeling of empowerment, of knowing that, you're on the right track, that there is hope, that your body is not permanently broken, then it's very, very hard to make progress, And besides that, we also have to mind our own thoughts about our body, because of course we have been programmed over the years to fear certain things. We have been programmed to expect to be in pain, perhaps, after certain activities. Some of us have tendencies to catastrophize and to predict the worst in every situation. And this applies both to our physical body, but also to the circumstances in our lives that I've mentioned before. Typically, a person who catastrophizes or thinks about negative outcomes would think negatively both about the body, about symptoms getting worse, for example, and also about other outcomes in life in general. Okay, so it's your job to notice these tendencies now, to notice how many fear-based thoughts you're having, and to decide firmly not to buy into these fear-based thoughts. It's the most empowering thing you can do as you go about your day, about your weeks, and you notice that you're starting to fear that your symptoms are going to spiral out of control, or you're starting to fear that by next year you're not going to be healed, or you're starting to fear that your boss might actually fire you. All of these things, it's your choice not to directly buy into these fear-based thoughts. Because emotionally you will spiral and you will get stuck in this dominant state of fear. And this is the opposite of what we want. So certain thought redirection techniques that I also teach in my own programs can be effective in this regard. So for example, you would just be going about your day and you have this fear-based thought of, oh, what if my condition, whatever it is going to get worse? What if this treatment is not going to work? What if blah, blah, blah? If there is no way to tell, the outcome. If this outcome is not guaranteed, and most probably it isn't, most probably you're thinking of the worst, you have to observe this tendency to predict negative outcomes. Even if the negative outcome is a possibility in some cases, this is still a tendency of yours to always predict the negative outcome. So you have to notice that you're doing that, and you have to tell yourself, oops, there I go again, stop. This is what thought redirection is. It's to interrupt this process consciously. It doesn't mean that you won't have any fear-based thoughts, but as you repeat this process, it's gonna get easier to be aware of these thoughts and to prevent them from affecting your mood or making your fear worse, right? So things you can do is just say stop. You can tell yourself, we're not gonna go there anymore. We're done with that kind of thinking. You can just click your fingers and pretend that you've interrupted this thought pattern, and you go back to what you're doing, to the task that you're doing at that moment and to the present moment. You can do also this during meditation. As you sit and meditate and perhaps you start to worry or predict negative outcomes in your life, you can bring your attention back to the breath. This is what meditation is for as well, to bring you back to the present moment. Meditation is actually training so that you can step out of this fear-based pattern of thinking. So whatever it is you do, whatever technique you choose, the most important thing is that you feel empowered in your decision. The most important thing is that you take this decision not to buy into the fear anymore. If something is making you feel like you're caving in with fear, if you're visiting, you have an appointment, and the last time you went to this appointment, whoever it was really scared you about your condition, looked extremely concerned, made it into this big, huge thing, and you felt absolutely horrid afterwards, then I'm sorry, you have to change this practitioner or therapist or whatever. It might be very well-meaning, I repeat, but you have to focus on the way you're feeling. With mind-body healing, it's about shifting from states of fear and helplessness to states of more acceptance and empowerment. And you can't do that from a state of fear, of course. So you have to take certain empowered decisions. Sometimes it might also look like not doing certain things which you think you should be doing to fight your condition if you're doing these things out of fear. Instead, you might decide that, you're going to take a break from all these tools and things you're doing, and you're going to do something that you actually want to do, that you actually enjoy. That's also a decision of empowerment that helps you step out of the fear. And this applies, again, both to fear about your physical symptoms, about chronic pain or symptoms, and fears about your life in general. If you find yourself acting out of fear, trying to fix a situation desperately, expecting the worst out of the situation, whatever it is, that is the time to step out, to decide to step out of this mind frame by doing something else, by taking a step back and not continuing to buy into these fearful thoughts. It might also involve a decision not to listen to your friends and family if they are scaring you about whatever situation it is you're dealing with. If they're making you feel more helpless or more scared, then it might be the time to take the decision to tell them that that's it for now. You're going to take a step back and you're going to see for yourself. This in itself is an empowered step. So there are various ways in which you can decide to take action to step out of fear. And I hope that I've given you some good ideas in this video. It is a process, so be gentle with yourself. It doesn't mean that you're never going to have fear-based thoughts. It just means that you're going to be more aware of them and more in control of the direction you're going. Just think of the general direction you're going. Out of fear and helplessness into more empowerment. That is what you're aiming for. And with that said, I wish you all the best, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye bye.